Marriage is their most dangerous mission. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Hello and welcome back to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy facts, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Zach,
And I'm Christian.
and happy Valentine's Day to all of our Spy-Fi fandom.
Yeah. So we are covering the TV show Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. We figured since the show just came out, it'd be a nice tie-in for Valentine's Day this year.
So, how well do you remember the movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina
Quite
Jolie?
well, actually. Yeah, I've seen it a number of times.
I remember the fighting. Were they actually spies in that, or were they assassins?
They're more like assassins, really. So it's interesting because and I mean, we'll get more into it, but it sort of flips the concept of it on its head because, in the movie, and, we'll probably get to the movie someday,
Hmm,
they don't know that each other's a spy, but they are actually married. In this
right.
one, they both know they're spies, and they're legally married, but they are not like in love with each other.
And I like that. That's exactly how remakes of known properties should work, where it's similar but different, reversed,
Yeah.
if you will.
This actually seems more like a show, and I know that they have said that this has been based on the movie, but there was a show called and Mrs. Smith in 1996, which this seems more like, in that there are two spies who have to pretend to be married. They're both in their name, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they work together, but they don't really know anything about each other's lives, including their real names.
Oh, interesting.
And it starred Scott Bakula and Maria Bello.
Oh my gosh, that Scott Bakula guy just will not stop making TV shows.
Yeah. And also, in the same vein, there was another show in 2010 called Undercovers, which was exec produced by J.J. Abrams, that was basically the same concept. It was more in line with the Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie, and that they were retired spies and they get brought back into the life, and they're actually married.
I remember seeing ads for that show, but I can't say I
I
ever
s-
watched it.
I saw maybe 3 or 4 episodes of it. It was fine. Actually, I think like after the second or third episode, it got canceled. But yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know. It was fine. It did feature Gugu Mbatha-Raw, who I do enjoy, and I think that's the earliest thing I saw her in. You may know her as Renslayer from Loki.
I don't remember that character.
Hmm?
Oh, wait, Renslayer? Who's that?
Yeah, she was. She's like the judge who in Loki who
Yes, I
sentences
remember
him.
that
Yes,
character now. All right.
yes.
Well, she's been around a while then.
Yeah, she has. So this show, like we said, stars Donald Glover, who we all know from Community and a lot of other things. Maya Erskine, I didn't really know that well. How about you?
Nope.
So I knew she was on a show called Pen 15, mostly because of the name, which I was amused by. But apparently, she's been in a bunch of stuff, including she was in Obi-Wan Kenobi
Oh, really?
in a like, super minor role that she's like basically wasted in. She's like some random pilot.
Hmm.
But she's also in the Blue-Eyed Samurai show on Netflix that I've been wanting to check out, and it's got a lot of other great people in it. So, judging on her performance here might give me more reason to check that out.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that show as well.
All right, so do we have some synopses?
Yes, we do. Here come the poetry synopses. As always, they may contain spoilers. I will not make any promises. If you want to avoid spoilers, we're only covering the first episode today. If you want to
Yes.
avoid spoilers for that, here we go. Here's the haiku. Auto interview. An easy task goes awry. What are they in for?
All right, pretty good.
And then here comes the limerick. There once was a middle aged couple who got into some money trouble. Got a house and a cat, and in 2 seconds flat, instead of one spy, we've got double.
Would you say they're middle-aged? What is considered middle-aged? That's what I
That's a
honed
good.
in on. I was like, wait a tick, they are like my
They've been
age.
around. They've been around for a while. Christian, I hate to break it to you, but we're both kind of coming up
No.
on middle
Middle
age.
age is 45 to 65. We are not middle aged yet, dang it.
Hmm. Okay. Well, fair enough. I
Although
don't know
how
how old they're supposed to be. I get the impression they've been around the block
I know
watching the
Maya
show.
Erskine is like she's about a year younger than me. I don't remember how old Donald Glover is. He
Hmm.
is survey says
This is gonna
only
make us
three
feel
years
old.
He's only 3 years older than me, so yeah, so he's 40.
Okay, so I guess not quite.
No, so they're not middle-aged.
And then here is the real IMDb plot summary. Two strangers land jobs with a spy agency that offers them a life of espionage, wealth, and travel. The catch: new identities in an arranged marriage. Yes, that's true. It is an arranged marriage. I hadn't thought of that. That's literally what happened.
So we start with this married couple on a porch. It's apparently they've got their drinking their last bottle of wine, and these guys. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to remember who these guys. One of them I recognize is like Asa Gonzalez. I don't remember who the other guy is.
The other guy looked kind of like that dude who stole Boba Fett's armor in The Mandalorian.
It is definitely not him.
He does kind of look like him though. And
Eh.
the woman
Oh,
here
he's a
looks
Skarsgård. Oh, he's one of the. He's
okay.
Alexander Skarsgård.
So the
And yeah.
woman here is the classic. She's too attractive. It reminded me of Megan Fox.
What?
Like doesn't look like a real
Okay.
person.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Way
Yeah,
to judge people.
but it's a compliment.
Doesn't sound like a compliment.
It's a
But
little
okay.
bit of
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's in a lot of stuff. She's in Baby Driver, if I recall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so we meet them. They're introduced as John and Jane.
Yeah. So clearly they're another Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Mhm. So there's a car approaching them. They grab their bug out bags, lock the doors, grab the guns.
So my girlfriend and I were watching this together, and she was like, "Is
Yeah.
that squirrel going to come back?" Because they like watch a squirrel, and then the
Um,
squirrel like does something. I don't know if she thought it was like a robotic squirrel. It
I
means
don't know.
nothing, as it turns out. I think
It
it's just
does.
a
Yeah.
harbinger of doom.
Yep. So Jane makes some sort of comment like she can't keep running, and they're about to fight back when John is suddenly silent because he gets shot through one cheek and out the other.
Yeah, these guys are not just a bunch of goons
And
that one spy can
no.
destroy, no problem. It cannot be
And I'm
fought.
like not expecting that level of gore from that. I was like, whoa,
Well, I hope
that's a
you liked
lot.
it, Christian, because this is the most exciting part of the whole episode. It's right in the beginning. No, you know I'm right.
Boo this man. No, no, you are incorrect.
Here come the
All
hot
right.
takes.
Oh boy, here we go. Anyway, so yeah, he's dead. Jane gets pinned down. She runs out, guns blazing, but is also shot dead. And the killers drive away.
And then yeah, we get our. This is where we get our opening credits, right?
Yep. And so we cut to a big room with a bunch of folding chairs in rows. Numbers getting called. We get here number 347 called. It's an Asian woman played by Maya Erskine. She enters a room with a chair and a like computer interface.
So Christian, a question for you. Do you think
Yeah.
this was a robot? Because I know in my haiku I said auto interview, but do you think a human is running the other side?
Yes, I think so.
That would make sense. So, and of
But
course, and this isn't the first time I've brought this up, but this reminds me of the opening of the voyage home. Not the opening, the beginning of the voyage home, where Spock is answering all the
how do you
questions.
feel?
I legitimately thought they were going to ask her, "How do you feel?" Because there's a lot of other personal questions. What's one
Yeah.
more?
Well, like what caught me is like insert nail clippings. So, and like in my mind, it's like, are they doing drug testing? That's the only thing I can think of.
I thought it might be just to confirm who they are because of their DNA.
Maybe interesting. Well, is there DNA in nail clippings?
Yeah,
Okay,
to, to the spy
I don't
fact
know.
versus fiction. I mean, there's DNA in your hair.
I
Anything
knew
that
there's
comes
in
out of you,
hair.
right? I
Yeah, okay.
mean, if your
And
body
like
makes
the
it.
other questions like height, ethnicity, are you willing to relocate? We see her like, checking out this new house in sort of a flash forward. We find out that she applied to the CIA but didn't make the cut. Apparently she has antisocial tendencies.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
You have my attention. Show.
Yeah. And then we go over to Donald Glover, who's either in a similar room or the same room at a different time. We really don't know. He's
Yeah,
asked a
that's
bunch
right.
of the same questions. He has experience in hand-to-hand combat, some basic training, where it's hinted that he had a dishonorable discharge, so he's
Yeah.
military.
He also says that he's killed people, presumably in the
Hmm.
military, but not necessarily.
Yeah, yeah. And then how much money do they have in their bank account? She definitely has more. She's like 14K. He's about 300.
Yeah, but neither have that much.
No, and this is interesting. Is like the feel here is like it's a cross between doing a dating profile and a job interview.
Hmm. That's fair.
And they're also asked, what's their worst quality? She says she's very secretive. He says he's too competitive.
Those are good answers. I don't know what I would have
Yeah.
said if someone had asked me my worst quality. I probably would have been much harsher. Hey, maybe that's my worst quality. I'm too hard on myself.
That's like no, that's a terrible. That's the answer when you. That's exactly the kind of answer you'd give actually, because that's you're not actually saying a bad quality.
Wow. They're just gonna call me out like that.
No, no, I mean I'm not saying you specifically, but a person.
Oh,
That's what you if you're dating, putting it in a
oh
dating
yeah, that's right.
profile.
Well, it's kind
Yeah.
of like when they ask you like, "What's your the classic "What's your greatest weakness" in a job interview.
hmm
It's
Yeah,
basically like that,
that
but
too exactly.
repackaged. Yeah.
hmm So there we both see them both sort of looking around the house, and they finally meet each other, introduce themselves also as John and Jane, and they go over to a room and open a box. There's a bottle of wine and a note. Good luck on your first day of marriage.
So, question: is there ever a point where they say your name is Jane Smith and your name is John Smith, or do we just kind of put
No,
that together from context?
they could introduce well in terms of the Smith. That I don't know if they ever say the last name of Smith. Like when they're introducing each other when they meet Jane, John. That's about it. That's where we get it.
Okay, so yeah, they tell us, they tell the
Yeah, they
audience.
tell us we're not there. We're not shown or told where they get that name, and we don't need that really.
Mhm.
John finds some guns hidden behind a portrait. They both open up a laptop, and there's a messaging app that gives them their first mission. They're supposed to follow this woman and intercept a package and bring it to some coordinates.
Sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're theorizing she could be a foreign spy or she could be U.S. intelligence. So they're working outside of the normal intelligence circles, seemingly.
I mean, yeah, clearly
Yeah.
they're cool with it. No, they're just in it for the
Yeah.
money. So I do like that angle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
We
different.
have these mercenaries as opposed to the noble spy will do anything for their country.
So they get a bunch of cover documents, including an actual marriage certificate, as well as the rings. And apparently, there's a cat that comes with the house. This is get caught your attention.
Yeah, so that cat looks like my sister's cat that I've cat sit for many times.
That's funny.
Yes. It's called a tuxedo cat because it's black and white.
Okay. So they sort of jockey for position of all right, who gets the master bedroom, who gets the guest room. Jane takes the master room, John takes the guest room, and off the bat you can see that they've got different styles of living. Jane apparently left her dishes in the sink when she cooked,
Uh oh.
whereas John was not into that.
Right.
Um,
Maybe he was a
John goes
Marine.
Maybe I don't know. So John awkwardly goes to say goodnight to her, and they have an awkward conversation. And he also covertly takes a photo of her to try to reverse image search to find anything about her.
Yeah, but he fails. It just shows a lot of Asian women. I don't know if that's supposed to mean something of like Google image search.
Or
Just
that
can't
she's a
find
digital.
her.
She's just a or yeah, that she's a digital ghost.
Yeah, more likely. But
Yeah,
you would think he'd have some kind of spy search. I guess
Eh,
not.
maybe,
Mhm.
but he doesn't have access to any of that sort of tech.
Oh,
Really.
by the way, I forgot to mention this in our last episode, Argyle. But do you know this that
Yeah,
Argyle was an Apple original, and then they kept
I
using
did.
Apple products
I
in the
did not
movie?
notice that actually.
Mm.
It's not as
I've,
blatant as some.
I've lived too long and I've seen too much. I cannot
No,
see it
like
now.
some of the most obvious ones are in the James Bond films, like the very prominent like Sony Vaio logos
Yeah,
everywhere. That's
the
what I'm
Sony Vaio is the most popular tablet in Hollywood, if
talking.
nowhere else.
Yeah,
No, anyway,
but
we're here
this
to talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I didn't see
right.
any Amazon
I
products.
was about to say, yeah, I did not see any like. I'm surprised that when they intercept the package later, it didn't have like the Amazon uh, tape over the box.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anyway, so where were we?
The Google image search doesn't work, is
Oh
where we
yeah.
were
So
at.
the next day they go to the rendezvous point, which is a cafe. They watch their target, and John is trying to make small talk with Jane, but Jane mostly avoids. But like
Yeah,
at the last second,
yeah, they order green tea and they talk, and this is the first time, but not the last, that the
yeah.
show started to put me to sleep. Now, admittedly, I was tired when I
What?
watched it, but I was like, I'm
Boo.
getting bored. I'm getting
What?
bored.
This is interesting stuff. I mean, I like because I want to know more about these characters too. So I'm with
Hmm.
John and like, all right, I want to know what. And so she drops this bombshell about how the last time she was in New York, she ditched a school trip to meet up with a pedophile.
Yeah, that was interesting. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
keep talking, keep
But
talking. All
before
right.
John can follow up on this, the target gets up and leaves the restaurant, so they go and follow.
So I have a question, Christian. Did they have any
Yes.
training to be spies before they just sent them out after this target?
Seemingly, well, no. I mean, we don't know what their backgrounds are, so they seemingly had something. Like, and we'll find out a bit more about that. Like,
Yeah, they could
John.
put in another. Yeah, they could put in another episode that shows them getting trained. Like, just drop it in. It would still all make sense. Still, kind of all hang together in the context of the show.
Well, I mean, we know that
Mostly.
John has seemingly has military background, so maybe he was in military intel, and we know that Jane's got some sort of training.
Yeah, not that you need too much to follow somebody around, but
No, you don't
anyway,
really.
I was just curious.
So the target stops in a park and waits on a bench and meets up with a much younger man. They're trying to judge, all right, could this be her son? Jane thinks it could be her boyfriend, but John's like, no way. John's still trying to get more info on Jane's past. He finally gets some very, very vague basics on their housework, preferences, what they, she likes to read to get to sleep. So not a lot, but oh, shut up.
Sorry, I'm not
Dude,
exactly on the edge of my edge of my seat here.
it's called character work. All right, not every spy show has to be nonstop action.
No, it's true. But it's like also what they're doing is like they're just watching an old lady like make out with somebody.
You realize that this is most of what actual spy work and surveillance is.
I understand. Let's just say the transition from Argyle to this is like a whip crack.
You mean like every episode of this show where we go from spy
That's
fact
right.
to spy fiction,
Yeah, I should be used to it by now.
right? Anyways, so they see the target handing some money to the guy and they see them kissing. So Jane gloats about how she was right, and the target keeps moving.
So, Christian, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think the target's love life is ever going to come up again?
No,
Like in a later episode?
no.
So it's just character stuff?
It's
It's just
all
like fluff,
character work here.
world building?
Character work is not fluff.
Well, it depends on the
It's a
character.
TV show. Yeah.
If it's a character we
It's a
don't see again, then if
no,
it's a character we don't see again,
it's
I would put it more under world building. Now that it's such a
she's a
big
v.
deal.
I mean, that is a vehicle. All of that is a vehicle for them and how they
Mm,
interact. And
that's true.
what John mentions that he's bad at losing and he always has to win an argument. And here we have him having to react to being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no wonder he's single. That's kind of a bad trait to have.
Hey, at least he's honest.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's his best quality.
So they head down the subway and they follow the target to a theater. Outside the theater, they realize they can't actually text each other because they don't have each other's numbers. So John is gonna be a distraction while Jane gets into the theater. And there's a moment where it looks like John's trying to make a move because he like moves her hair over
Yeah,
her ear,
very
and
awkward.
she immediately is like, "Hey, no, I'm not in this for the romance." But he's like, "No, actually, I was just trying to put an earpiece in, but be smooth about it." It's like, "Oh,
Yeah, but
okay."
I mean, come on, he's clearly into her. You can tell.
I mean, they have good chemistry, but also they are supposed to be married, so yeah, that makes sense that they would do this in public.
Yeah, totally.
So once Jane gets in there, John starts speaking to her on the earpiece, and then realizes, oh wait, there's a huge flaw because you can't talk back.
Yeah,
So
not in the
instead,
theater.
no. So instead, she has to text John, which also is kind of a taboo.
Well, yeah, there was some interesting tension in this part because you will know it's only a matter of time before somebody gives her some grief for texting in the
Yeah,
theater. Not
yeah.
just a
Someone
movie theater,
shushes her.
a
Yeah.
live theater, right? So either
Yeah.
a bouncer is going to kick her out or someone is going to come over and say something, which is exactly what happens. I also, before we get to that though, I also want to comment about how she gets in, where she takes
Yeah.
advantage of this cute little old lady, steals her ticket, and then pretends like she has dementia or something and forgot her ticket.
Yeah. It was clever, but also like terrible.
I mean, whatever. Like the old lady will get in eventually. I just thought it was funny, but it also
Yeah.
shows an insight into her character. Do you do
hmm
what you got to do, even if that means taking advantage of the vulnerable.
Yep. Yep.
She also does she also kind of takes advantage of her being Asian because the woman's also Asian and she speaks to her, I think in Japanese to like
hmm
sell it that they're
Yep.
related.
Yep. hmm So while they're, watching the play, but also trying to watch the target, John asks about the pedophile, and so she texts back that it actually did happen, and that she and her friend went to get pancakes with the guy, and he paid the check, and as soon as he left, her and her friend just busted out laughing.
Wow, what an anticlimactic story.
Mm. Character work.
Yeah, stories with no point. We can agree to disagree.
My God.
Mhm. I mean, okay, well, okay, hang on. If you're gonna make that point, though, what did we learn about her character from that story? That I guess she's willing to take risks.
She's willing to take risks, and that she is, yeah, that she's
She's willing to
up
do
for anything
somewhat stupid
seemingly.
stuff, like
Yeah.
stupid stuff for a laugh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways, while all this happening, Jane is distracted and doesn't actually notice that the target's leaving. So she has to run and get up. And John
Right.
is outside and says that he saw her get a package from the coat check. So they go and follow. And it's a box. Looks like an Amazon box.
You think so?
No,
I
I
just thought
mean,
it looked
I'm
like
just
a box.
joking.
Oh, it
I mean,
does not look like an
yeah,
Amazon box.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, also, I think it's funny that these two in-shape spies are so easily outpaced by this old woman moving at a regular pace. They're just
Well,
able to get
it's
away
not
with
that
them because
they're,
they're not paying attention.
yeah, but also when you're tailing something, you don't want to be right behind them. That's really obvious. You need to follow from a distance.
That's true. You took the surveillance class, not me, so I defer to your
Hmm.
expertise.
They're trying to figure out how to get the package from her, so they split up. Jane is continuing to tail her while John's trying to figure out something. He gets a box from a they're like in Chinatown, I think,
I did
in New
like
York
this part,
City.
yeah, where he's like, "I
Yeah.
want this box," to this poor
He's trying
sales
to
girl.
grab a box that just doesn't have anything on it, and so he like has to buy something to put in the box, and
Mhm.
she like sees him and is like, "Are you shopping right now?"
So this is the kind of thing they should have had them do on 007 Road to a Million. It's like, "Your target is a
All
box.
right.
You need to find a box that looks just like that box and get it. I don't care how
Mhm.
you do it. Here's $20."
So they all exit the shops in Chinatown. John causes a distraction while Jane switches the boxes
Yep, this
and they get
was
the
also
box.
good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they get on the subway and they're sort of wondering, all right, what's in the box? They also talk about how they don't know who, the company that hired them is, and they bring out
Yeah.
how, and I didn't notice this till the second time it happened. They always the text messages always start with hi hi.
Between the two of them?
No, between from the company.
Oh, from the company. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, that was funny. I really can't complain about this because literally every spy show does this, but they openly talk about
Okay.
their secret mission on the train with lots of people around. Like I
Eh,
said, they all do it, so it's fine.
yeah. I am not bothered by it really.
Mhm.
And also in New York City, you could be talking about anything on the train and no one would pay any attention to you.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Or not the train, the subway, excuse me.
Mhm.
Anyway, so John says that, he's just happy to have a job, and Jane says that she took this job because no one else would take her. John too.
Yeah, they're leaving the past behind.
Hmm. And I was trying to, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier when he gets some information about her, yeah, guesses that she's like former FBI, CIA, something like that. And she says, yeah,
Mhm.
something like that. So there we go. She's got some sort of intel pass.
The classic non-answer. Yeah.
So yeah, we got a little flashback to the interview room where we see that they're told about that they were going to be actually married to someone and that they're supposed to cut all contact with the past. And they
Right.
both are just like, sure, that sounds good to me.
Mhm.
So they arrive at the coordinates they were given for the delivery. It's a big fancy house, and they're directed to a room in the back where they give the package to a woman. This all seems very sort of suburban, like,
Yeah, this part's really surreal. It feels like something out
hmm
of Black Mirror because, yeah, it is suburban, but there's also like, there were there like security guys there? I seem to remember that.
no,
I
no, there
seem to
was
remember
not.
they were like tough looking guys.
There
No?
was one guy who like was said, "Oh, package, all right," and he shouts over, "We got another package," and send them back that way.
Good, because they're setting up for. Maybe I'm thinking of the guys who are like setting up for the party.
It's probably just the caterers.
Yeah, caterers or like people doing setup or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all seems totally legit. There's something a little off about the woman that they give it to, or maybe I was just expecting her to be a little off because I know it's a spy story.
Right. So she opens the package and inside it is a box with a cake in it. And she says that, "Oh, it's a little damaged, but it'll do." Do you, and they even like she's even tries to negotiate 50% off as long as it doesn't come out of their cut. So she's at least considerate about that.
So I seem to remember, I don't have this in Spy Fact versus Fiction. I should have looked it up.
Yeah,
There was some like MI5. Something though that sounds familiar. There was some like spy, it might have been KGB, like general who would have his underlings like do stuff like pick up his laundry for him. I can't
I mean
remember
that
now.
sounds. I
Does it sound
don't. Yeah,
familiar? Okay, that's
no,
basically
but
what
I'm
this
sure it
is.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Jane and John are obviously very confused, and they leave. And as they're like sort of discussing, like, but like, what's with the cake? All right, maybe it's from a cake from overseas that they can only get somewhere else or something like that. And they're arguing about what is with the cake, and John's actually like, we don't talk about it. And they're maybe 10 feet away when the house explodes.
It was a good explosion. Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think someone was watching them and waiting for them to get clear before setting it off? Or was it on time? 'Cause
That's
I
a
don't
good
see how it
question.
could
I
be
didn't
on a
actually think
timer.
about it. I thought it was a timer, but now that I think about it, you're right. Maybe there is someone who's watching them.
It would be ridiculously precise timing if that was the case. Though it
Yeah.
does make me wonder where the original person was gonna take it, you know?
Ah, yeah.
Hmm.
Or it's just an extra level of security.
Or it was all a test.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, probably yes, that.
Yeah.
So as they run away from there, there's a couple of men who chase after them. They make some shortcuts through a bunch of businesses, including a mechanic shop, over a fence,
I like how
and
they
they
had
find.
Jane pose as being injured.
Yep, that
So
was
he kinda
nice.
smears blood on her face to look worse than she is.
Hmm.
Mhm,
And they find a restroom in a restaurant to clean up, and they split up and will meet back at the house.
mhm,
And so we see them hours later, both making their way back to the house. And Jane opens the master bedroom to find John. And he says that he came to say goodnight, but he got sucked into the bed because it's so comfortable.
Yeah, very subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Mhm.
was one second away from being like, "How about you join me, honey?"
I do not think he was that. I think he was literally, it's an exhausting day, and this is a very comfy bed.
Hmm, that's true.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily getting that kind of vibe from him there.
Hmm,
And so he notices the cat and again and says that he wants to name the cat, and he was coming up with some other names, but Jane is very insistent, and that's like, okay, I'd love to compromise you on a bunch of things, but this cat's name is Max. And that's when John realized that Jane actually brought the cat from her house. It's her actual cat. It did not come with the house.
yep.
And John admits that he has killed people he lied before, and that he was a drone operator in Afghanistan.
So, that's true. It's
Hmm.
true.
Yep.
Very yeah, it's a good revelation, and then I have the note pedophile confession as well.
Yeah, so Jane admits that it was not her idea, it was actually her friend's idea to get pancakes with the pedophile, and that she was actually scared the whole time. So shows it's more character work. It shows okay, she can lie about things, and also that she's maybe not as tough as she presents herself to be.
Yeah, not as much of a daredevil as we
Yeah,
thought.
and we get another flashback to the interview room where Jane is saying that that she's okay with starting a whole new life, seemingly that she's ready to move on from whatever life she had before.
Right. Which we kind of knew already, but I guess
Mhm.
it's you reiterate that she's not
Yeah.
asked how do you feel.
No. And with that, our episode ends.
All right. So now it is time for our spy fact versus fiction. So you had one thing you said. I have a couple. Do you want to go
I have a
first?
little bit. So, as you've mentioned, obliquely referred to, I have done a surveillance class with the Spy Museum. I've not actually done from both sides, being the person who's surveilling someone and the person being surveilled.
Hmm.
And these were classes with, what's his name? Eric
Eric O'Neill.
O'Neill, who is the real life person who the movie Reach was based on. He was played in that movie by Ryan Philippe. And yeah, so he does a very good class on this. He does it maybe about once a year. And like what they're doing in the show, they're working in teams, trying to blend with other people in the environment. And yeah, you do not want to be right behind the target. You want to be a pretty decent distance behind them, and you definitely don't want to make any sort of contact with the target.
Didn't you successfully lose your tail?
Yes, actually, more
Without even really
successfully than I
trying,
should
right?
have. All right, I mean, well, you brought up the story, so I will bring this up.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I was the target who was supposed to being surveilled, and I had an idea that I was actually going to do a quick change. So I had a reversible jacket. I had a hat I was wearing a hat that I was going to take off, and I was going to put on some glasses and let my hair down. And I did this rounding a corner, and I had waited long. I thought I waited long enough that I would at least maybe someone would at least catch it. Maybe not everyone, but just someone would catch me doing it. Unfortunately, no one caught it. And also, not only did the all my followers lose me, they started following someone who was wearing what I used to be wearing. So much
Mm.
so, and not only did I lose them, I also lost Eric O'Neill and the people who were running it.
No, you're really good at this. But did you tell Eric O'Neill that you were gonna do it?
I told him I was going to do a quick change, and even
Mm.
told him like I was thinking about where I was thinking about doing it. But he didn't catch it. He was further behind, and they all started walking, following this other person who was going in random directions. I had a set path I was supposed to be following, which Eric O'Neill knew. And then I get these text messages saying, "Christian, what are you doing? Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going here." He's like, "Oh, well, stop ad libbing." He's like, "It's not ad
It's
libbing."
not bad
And then
living.
like I was like getting yelled at via text by him, and then he said, "Oh no, just kidding. Never mind. It's all okay. We'll have a laugh about this." Like, and it wasn't until I
Yeah.
got back to our home base where it was revealed that they started following someone else that was not me at all.
Wow, they were so bamboozled.
Yeah, and actually, so they always have a photographer come in on these things as well, and he has photos of me, like literally behind a bunch of them, and they have no idea it's me. And
Nice.
like, yeah, so and yeah, it's I mean, I think I've shown you the change between what I was wearing at one time and was what I look like afterwards, and it is a fairly different look. So
Yeah, I mean, the spies have the right idea. It
yeah,
totally
yeah.
works.
All
Even
right,
on the
but
amateurs.
so I guess that can be my minor bragging rights is that I managed to elude Eric O'Neill in a surveillance.
Yeah, nice job. And that also reminds
Mm.
me of a story where one time I was on my way somewhere and I was standing at a crossroads, and then a guy walks up next to me, puts a bag down, pulls a bottle of whiskey out of a paper bag, and then puts it in his backpack and zips it up. And he didn't look homeless. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, I have a little bit of time before I get to where I'm going. I'm going to follow him and see where
Oh
he's
my
going with this
god.
bottle of whiskey.
All right.
So
Well,
unfortunately, he went one block and then he turned into one of those buildings that it's a bunch of offices inside of it.
okay.
So I couldn't follow him any further. So now that's an anticlimactic story for you.
Ah, yeah.
That reminded me of a kid's book I read about fictional kids where their hobby would be following people just to see where they went.
What was that book called?
I don't remember, sorry. Does it sound
Ah,
familiar?
that sounds familiar. I
Yes.
mean, it also could just be Harriet the Spy because that's what she did.
Oh, no, it's not. I would have remembered if it was Harriet the Spy. It was two kids. Anyway,
Okay.
all right, so here's
All
my
right.
fact versus
Yeah.
fiction. So they go into the house and they find the guns behind the painting,
Yes.
and John says, "Wow, an alien." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So
Mm-hmm.
I Googled alien gun. And
Wow,
here's what
I'm
I
sure you
found.
got a lot of hits on
No, no,
that.
no. This is the first result. This is the first result.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Laugo, spelled Laugo, Laugo
Uh-huh.
Arms Alien, is a
Hmm.
revolutionary semi automatic pistol with several patented and unique technological solutions.
Oh,
Wow,
okay.
neat. I don't know why they called it an alien. That seems like a bad name for search engine optimization. But
Or that's
see,
exactly why.
okay, so I'm going to read you some of these, and I think if you don't understand guns, which I do not, this is going to be incomprehensible.
All right,
So
let me hear it.
let me see what you think, okay? The alien system of operation does not use obsolete locking mechanisms or normal trigger mechanisms. This new
Okay.
approach is driven by the vision of progress which we want to give to the shooters. With alien
Uh-huh.
pistol shooters are more accurate. I think it's from a foreign country. That's why the English isn't great.
All
This
right.
effect is caused by the permanently fixed barrel to the frame. As a result, the barrel does not move during the fire cycle and can free
Okay.
float like on a sniper rifle. That, altogether with precise
Hmm.
manufacturing, contributes to the exceptional accuracy of this firearm.
Okay.
So I guess it's like an innovative
Huh.
gun, but you have to like really understand guns to understand how
Yeah,
he's
I
innovative.
don't quite get what's the difference there, but I
What
don't
that
know that
means.
much about guns.
No, me
Yeah.
neither. And that was one of the
I
more
know a lot about
comprehensible.
Nerf guns, but not about real guns.
Yeah, and that was one of the more comprehensible. It's the one I just read.
Alright. Curious.
So I have that, and then the other thing is while they're surveying the target, she is looking at her tablet. 15 best places to travel alone. You remember this?
Yes, I do.
So I don't understand why later she hooks up with the boyfriend if she wants to travel alone. I don't know. Maybe
Hey,
it's
some
explained in a
people just
future
like
episode.
traveling by themselves.
Well, speaking of that, I Googled as well, and I found the 15 best places to travel alone according to Time Out magazine. And I'm not
Alright,
going to say all
alright.
15. I'm just doing the ones that jumped out to me. But do you have a guess for which one is number one? I'll give you a hint. It's a
Uh,
foreign country, not a
okay.
city.
Country.
And I will give
Costa
you a hint. I
Costa
have
Rica.
been
I don't
there.
know.
No, I give you a
Oh,
hint. I have been there, and I traveled there alone.
where did you go alone? I have no idea.
Okay, it's Iceland. I went there in
Oh, that's
October of
right.
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that greatly amused me because I did travel there
Interesting.
alone. Number three was Botswana because they speak English a lot and has good safaris. Number
Alright.
eight is Slovenia, lots of seasons, and it's has a lot to explore. And number
Uh-huh.
13 is Bhutan. It's Buddhist, so it's safe. You can
Interesting.
also walk a
Alright.
monk trail, good architecture, and you got the Himalayas too.
You brought it up. Why don't you don't have to give the descriptions of why, just give me the whole list, though. I'm curious.
Okay, fine. I will tell you the whole list really quick.
You said number 1 was,
Number one was Iceland.
Iceland, yeah.
Okay. Number two is East Coast Australia. Number three
Interesting,
is
okay.
Botswana. Number four
Right.
is Canada. I mean, Canada's so it's such
That's
a
such
big
a
place.
big, yeah, this
Yeah,
the okay, that
come
I'm
on.
curious. Alright.
Number five is Vietnam.
Interesting, okay.
Number six is Portugal.
Hmm,
Seven is Chile. Number
mhm.
eight is Slovenia. Number nine is New Zealand, which I've also traveled to alone, but I studied
Hmm,
abroad, so I don't know if it counts.
okay.
10 is Ireland.
Oh,
11 is
yeah, I can see that.
Japan. I mean, these are all just good places to travel
Interesting.
anyway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, yeah.
12 is the Greek islands. 13 is Bhutan. 14 is Croatia. And 15 is Singapore, which makes
Huh,
sense because it's a city. But Singapore is
yeah.
pretty small.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what I got for Spy Fact versus Fiction. Next, we have our favorite quotes. I have a couple, so I can go first.
Sure.
So the first night when Jane is messy, John walks into her room and she says, "You lost your shirt," because he's not wearing a shirt.
Right,
See,
right.
that's why I think he's like coming on to her. Because you don't walk around without a shirt on, right? Around a strange
I
woman.
do some around sure, fine, yeah. I was like, I walk around I mean, at home, sure.
At home, yeah, with people you're actually married to for real.
I mean,
Uh,
this is
yeah,
his home now.
right. It also reminded me of Alan Rickman saying, "I see you got your shirt off" in Galaxy Quest.
Mhm.
And then later, John says, "I thought it would be harder, like lasers, you know." Yeah, I was
Yep.
expecting that too.
Mhm. Well, they said they theorized that maybe they were just easing them into this.
That's right. The
Yep.
lasers will come next episode.
Yeah, maybe.
How about you?
Alright,
What's your
anything else?
favorite quotes? Nope, that's it.
So I've got 2. "You're gonna pay me not to talk to my dad? Where do I sign?" That's
Ooh, that was a
uh,
good one.
from
Yeah.
Jane. That's, yeah. So clearly yeah, just does not want any part of her past. And then from John, "Nothing bad ever happens in public, and especially in New York, right?"
Oh god.
When he's talking
Do you think it
about
was a
how they
reference to 9/11 or just in general?
no, just in general about just New York, yeah, not being the safest.
Yeah. Fortunately, New York can take a joke.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, and that's what I've got.
All right, so now it's time for our ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being Avengers 1998 and 10 being No Time to Die, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, or better. How would we rate the first episode of Mr. and Mrs. Smith? I'm anticipating another confrontation.
Uh-huh. Here we go.
I
Alright,
guess I
Zach,
can
give it
I
to
can
me.
go first again. Okay, so as a sleep aid, I would give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I mean, all jokes aside, I probably shouldn't have watched it when I was tired, but I did find it to
Yeah.
be kind of slow. And the characters I did not find particularly engaging enough
Ugh.
to keep watching the show. But it wasn't like bad. It was just average. It reminded me of Citadel. Not a
Hmm.
coincidence because they're both on Amazon Prime.
Uh,
But I will give it a 5 out of 10. It was
all
average.
right. All right. I no that hold on. Now I want to look back and see what you gave Citadel.
Okay,
As
let's take a
see
look.
what
I feel like I would probably
Citadel.
stand
You
behind it.
also gave it a 5, and I gave it a 6.
That's right.
Which yeah,
Good job, past
no,
self.
this I was thoroughly engaged by this. This is I would say so far from Citadel because it is. I mean, Citadel was your wild out there spy action. This is
Hmm.
much more grounded, and I appreciated that. Like you actually had decent spy work in terms of okay, they're surveilling someone, and it wasn't all shoot 'em up, bang bang.
Hmm.
So I really liked, and unlike you, I am intrigued about where this is going. I want to find out more about the company who always greets everyone with hi hi, and I want to learn more about their past. And Donald Glover is really great in most things, and I am drawn in by Maya Erskine, so I'm very curious where this is going. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 martinis.
Wow, very nice. I take it you're going to keep watching the show.
I am once we're done watching everything else for this month, and also I'm trying to watch all of the Oscar nominated Best Picture movies. So probably once I'm done with that, then I'll sit down and finish this.
How are the Oscar nominations going? I think I'm still at 4 out of 10.
I'm at 4.5. I'm partway through Maestro.
All right. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the content just keeps piling up, doesn't it?
It does. There's so much to watch out there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and believe that the critics are on my side for this. We'll
That's
see.
fine. That's totally fine. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you, or Singles Appreciation Day for those of you who follow a different tradition.
Hmm.
And thank you for joining us here on the Spy-Fi Guys. You can find us on social media at the Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and our merch store also at redbubble.com. Until next time, I'm Zach.
And I'm Christian.
And we are the Spy-Fi Guys, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.